Okay, great. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining this early. It's nice to see that you're already this many this early. So I'm going to give a short introduction to the Internet of Things DevRoom for FOSDEM 2018. I'll start introducing myself, explaining what the IoT DevRoom is about, who Peter Hinches is, and also give a short overview of the talks that are going to be presented today to you. Who am I? I'm Maxime Vincent. I'm an electronics and embedded software engineer. I've been working in many different companies, but now I'm working at a startup, an IoT startup also called Senseless, and we are doing low power asset tracking. I'm also involved in a few free and open source projects, such as Pico TCP, which is a small embedded TCP IP stack. FROSTED, which is a POSIX implementation for very small embedded devices. So it's like running a small Unix on Cortex-M kind devices. This project is also using the Pico TCP project, to have a full TCP IP connectivity. Another project is Unicore MX, which is kind of a universal core library with support for clocks, the peripherals, UART, etc. Also for the Cortex-M class of devices. So these three projects kind of go together. Then what is the Internet of Things DevRoom? I guess you guys kind of know since you're already here. Anyway, this is the 5th Internet of Things DevRoom that has been organized on FOSDEM. It's a whole day track, and it's focused on everything that's IoT, and this is very diverse. IoT is also kind of a buzzword since the last few years, but I think it's really starting to take off more slowly than many people anticipated, but still it's becoming a reality. More and more devices are getting connected, and this results in this DevRoom with very diverse talks, which is also nice. We're going to talk about machine-to-machine communication between small devices, home automation, computer vision on small devices. Of course, a lot of IoT software stacks. How do you get things done on these devices? Security, privacy, which is also, in my opinion, a very big issue with IoT, and there's still not enough thought about this. Of course, all the presentations here must be fully free and open source. Free or open source. We also have just open source software. And of course, related to software development, and they probably will involve some kind of hardware as well, since we're talking about the IoT. Then I want to give a small word to Peter Hinches. Some of you might know him. He was an example to me. He's also the guy that started the IoT DevRoom on FOSDEM. He did this for 3 years, and I took over after him. So who was he? He was a writer, a programmer, and also a thinker. He wrote many books. He wrote many protocols. Sadly, in April 2016, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And even then he wrote a protocol for dying, which got kind of popular on the internet because it was a very special approach to look at these things. Many of his books are very interesting to read. Some are more about psychology, some are really about software architecture, working with teams, building communities. He's also the author of the 0MQ protocol, which is a message queuing protocol, which is particularly suited for tiny embedded devices, and so on. Look him up, he's a very, very interesting guy. Then we have the overview of the day. Sadly, I already have to say that one of the talks has been cancelled due to the speaker not being able to make it to FOSDEM, which was this talk about the dark side of Internet of Things, which is kind of sad because this was a talk focused on the security. But we have another one focused on security as well. But I'll give you a small overview. So the first one is the opening right now. Then we're going to talk about turning on the lights with Home Assistant and MQTT. So this is in the home automation. Then There's one how to access an mbed device. So mbed is this platform from ARM to connect, no, not to connect, but to program your devices. And we're going to get an explanation how to use PageGuide to access any IoT device from the outside. Then another home automation talk where we get an explanation why it's not as easy as we think, because it's just hooking up some device to the internet, right? Then a talk about computer vision, Mirai and computer vision, and also focusing on the security of connected webcams. So it's also a very interesting topic, I think. The IoT botnet wars. So you might know this huge botnet, which was created by hacking many cheap, very badly protected webcams. So I think it's a big issue. If people keep connecting things to the internet and not thinking decently about security, we will be in big trouble. Then there's the Eclipse IoT Foundation, which actually has 3 software stacks for the IoT. So we'll get an overview of that. There is also Tizen RT. So you might know Tizen, which is more focused at, I'd say, the bigger embedded devices running Linux. Maybe they even have a few CPU cores. And there's Tizen RT, which is really the lightweight RTOS variant of this. Then we have a talk again about the Eclipse IoT Foundation, but from a different perspective. This one is a talk from Bosch, which is actively contributing a lot to this foundation. Then there's a talk about IoT.js, which is running a JavaScript interpreter on tiny embedded devices. Then this sadly is the cancelled talk, so this one will not go through. And the final one is about OSS 7, which is a -7 implementation, open source implementation of the -7 protocol. And -7 is kind of an LPWAN communication protocol. So you can compare this to LoRa or Sigfox, but then meant to be site local, and it's actually technology coming from RFID, which now has been put on LPWAN devices. So that's about it for the introduction. I hope you enjoy it. If there's any questions, you can always come to me. And I think there's about 5 minutes left for the next talk. So thanks.